Growing older should be a time of peace, fulfillment, and enjoying the life you've worked so hard to build. You deserve to spend your golden years surrounded by kindness, respect, and genuine connections. But what happens when your kindness is being exploited? What if the very people you're trying to help are the ones draining your happiness and well-being? As we age, many of us become even more generous with our time, energy, and compassion. We've lived through enough to know the value of kindness, and often we feel compelled to extend that kindness to everyone around us. However, not everyone is deserving of your goodwill. When given to the wrong people, kindness can quickly become a burden. There are individuals who will exploit your generosity, leaving you feeling drained, frustrated, and unappreciated. Whether it's family members who take your help for granted, friends who only reach out when they need something, or acquaintances who manipulate you through guilt, these toxic dynamics can rob you of the peace and happiness you deserve. In this video, we will explore 5 types of people you should stop being kind to if you want to protect your mental health, emotional well-being, and overall happiness. Recognizing these harmful patterns will empower you to reclaim your peace without guilt or apology. If you find this helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share your thoughts below. Your voice matters, and your experiences can help others who are facing similar struggles. Let's dive in. Number 1, the constant taker. Kindness is a beautiful quality, but when it is given without discernment, it can be exploited. The constant taker is a person who continuously asks for favors, support, or resources, but never offers anything in return. Worse, they often expect your kindness as if it were their right rather than a privilege. These people are not strangers or casual acquaintances. They are often family members, longtime friends, or neighbors who have grown accustomed to your generosity. For people over 60, this dynamic can be especially draining. You might feel that being helpful is part of your identity, or perhaps you were raised to always prioritize the needs of others. But when you constantly give without receiving anything back, it becomes more than a mere inconvenience. It becomes an emotional and physical burden. Take Helen's story, for example. At 73, Helen had always been the dependable matriarch of her family. Her children knew they could count on her for anything. Whether it was babysitting her grandkids at a moment's notice, loaning money during financial crises, or simply providing emotional support whenever they needed someone to vent to. Helen was proud to be a good mother and grandmother, and she took her role seriously. But one winter, Helen developed a severe case of pneumonia that left her bedridden for weeks. Unable to cook for herself or even get out of bed without help, she hoped her children would check in on her. Days went by without a single call or visit. Helen's phone remained silent, and her house stayed cold and empty. Desperate, she finally called her daughter to ask if she could bring some soup and medicine. The response was disheartening. "I'm really busy right now, Mom. Maybe tomorrow." Helen's illness eventually passed, but the hurt remained. She realized that her kindness had been one-sided. Her family was always willing to take from her, but never thought to reciprocate when she needed them most. The revelation left her feeling not only frustrated, but profoundly unappreciated. The behavior of constant takers is often rooted in entitlement, manipulation, or sheer complacency. People who continually ask for favors without giving back may feel entitled to your kindness simply because it has always been available to them. They might think, if she's always done it, why would she stop now? Others may exploit your generosity intentionally, using guilt or emotional manipulation to secure what they want. Statements like, "You're the only one I can count on," or "If you loved me, you would help me," are classic tactics manipulators use to keep you compliant. Over time, your acts of kindness can be seen not as favors, but as obligations. Constant takers may also act out of sheer thoughtlessness. They've become so used to your kindness that they no longer see it as special or even appreciate it. Instead, they expect it, and when their expectations are not met, they may become resentful or dismissive. Solution: setting boundaries and practicing assertiveness. It's essential to recognize that kindness is not limitless. While you may enjoy helping others, your energy, resources, and emotional well-being are not infinite. Setting boundaries is not about being selfish. It's about respecting yourself and ensuring that your kindness is offered where it is genuinely appreciated. Here are some practical steps to protect yourself from constant takers. 1. Acknowledge the problem. Recognize when someone is repeatedly taking advantage of your kindness. Reflect on your interactions with them and ask yourself whether their demands are reasonable or if they are simply exploiting your goodwill. Chapter 2. Establish boundaries. Clearly define what you are willing to do and what you are not. If a family member constantly asks for favors but never reciprocates, consider setting limits on how often you help them. For example, you might say, "I can babysit once a month, but not every weekend." 3. Learn to say no without guilt. This is often the hardest step, especially if you've been a people pleaser your whole life. However, saying no can be empowering. Practice simple, direct phrases like, "I'm not available to help with that," or "I have other commitments right now." 4. Practice assertive communication. When setting boundaries, speak clearly and confidently. Avoid apologizing unnecessarily or over-explaining your reasons. Remember, you are entitled to your own time and energy. 5. Recognize manipulation tactics. If someone attempts to guilt trip you into doing something you are uncomfortable with, calmly restate your boundary. For example, if they say, "But I really need you to help me," you can respond with, "I understand, but I'm unable to help this time." 6. Surround yourself with supportive people. Not everyone in your life will take advantage of your kindness. Cherish those who appreciate and reciprocate your generosity. It's okay to focus your energy on relationships that uplift you rather than drain you. Helen eventually learned to establish boundaries with her children. She made it clear that she would no longer be available at their constant beck and call, especially when they were unwilling to help her in return. Surprisingly, this shift in dynamics led her children to become more appreciative and considerate of her time and efforts. Remember, kindness is a gift, not an obligation. You have every right to protect your peace and happiness by choosing who receives your generosity. Number 2, the chronic critic. Criticism can be helpful when it's constructive and delivered with kindness. But when it becomes constant, unrelenting, and aimed at tearing you down rather than lifting you up, it turns toxic. The chronic critic is the person who seems to find fault with everything you do, no matter how hard you try or how well you succeed. They never have a kind word to offer, only sharp remarks and undermining comments that chip away at your confidence. These critics aren't always strangers or casual acquaintances. They are often people closest to you, children, siblings, lifelong friends, whose words carry significant weight. Their constant criticism can leave you feeling inadequate, frustrated, and deeply hurt. Frank, a 70-year-old retiree, learned this the hard way. After working tirelessly for decades, he had finally settled into a life of quiet contentment. Gardening had become his passion, a daily ritual that brought him peace and joy. His backyard, brimming with blooming flowers and thriving vegetables, was his sanctuary. But every time his daughter visited, her remarks stung like thorns. "Why do you waste so much time on that garden, Dad? You should be focusing on more important things. You're doing it wrong. Those flowers don't even look good. You should really act your age instead of messing around in the dirt." Her words were relentless. At first, Frank tried to brush them off, but over time, they began to wear him down. He started to doubt his own choices. Was he really wasting his time? Was his passion nothing more than a childish hobby? The joy he once found in gardening was overshadowed by constant criticism, until he found himself neglecting his beloved plants altogether. People who constantly criticize others often do so out of their own insecurities. Rather than addressing their own struggles, they project their dissatisfaction onto those around them. It's not about you, it's about them and their need to feel superior or in control. Critics like Frank's daughter might also be motivated by a misguided sense of concern or control. Perhaps she felt her father's interests were outdated or unproductive, or maybe she feared that he was growing too distant as he found fulfillment outside of their relationship. In her attempt to help or assert control, her words only serve to undermine him. It's also worth noting that some critics derive satisfaction from pointing out the perceived flaws of others because it temporarily distracts them from their own shortcomings. By tearing others down, they momentarily feel elevated. This cycle of negativity is not only damaging to their relationships, but also deeply unfulfilling for the critic themselves. Understanding these motivations doesn't excuse their behavior, but it can help you recognize that their harsh words are a reflection of their own internal struggles, not your worth or abilities. Solution: protecting yourself from chronic critics. You may not be able to change a critic's behavior, but you can certainly change how you respond to it. Protecting your peace and happiness requires emotional resilience and a willingness to prioritize your own well-being. Here's how. 1. Detach emotionally from their words. Remind yourself that their criticism is often rooted in their own insecurities, not your shortcomings. Visualize their harsh words bouncing off a protective shield around you. This mental exercise can help you remain unaffected by their negativity. 2. Practice mindfulness. Develop techniques to calm your mind when criticism arises. This could include deep breathing, meditation, or simply taking a moment to focus on something positive. Practicing mindfulness helps you remain centered and prevents you from internalizing hurtful remarks. 3. Set boundaries. It's perfectly acceptable to limit your interactions with those who consistently undermine you. This doesn't mean you have to cut them off entirely, but rather control the amount of time and energy you spend on them. For example, Frank could choose to limit visits from his daughter if her criticism continues to affect his well-being. 4. Surround yourself with supportive people. Seek out relationships with those who uplift and encourage you. Find friends, community groups, or even online forums where your interests are appreciated and respected. Just as Frank found joy in his gardening community, you can find reassurance and kindness from those who share your passions. 5. Focus on your own happiness. Reconnect with the activities and hobbies that bring you joy, regardless of what others say. Remind yourself that your happiness is valid and worth pursuing. For Frank, that meant returning to his garden, allowing himself to find peace in the soil and beauty in the blooms. Frank eventually learned to brush off his daughter's criticism. He no longer sought her approval or allowed her words to dictate his happiness. Instead, he poured his energy back into his garden, finding solace in the vibrant life he cultivated with his own hands. You deserve the same freedom. Recognize that chronic critics are dealing with their own struggles. Your life, your choices, and your happiness are yours to protect. Number 3, the manipulator. Manipulation can be subtle or overt, but it always has the same goal: control. Manipulators are skilled at using guilt, shame, or emotional blackmail to get what they want, leaving you feeling obligated, indebted, or even fearful of letting them down. They exploit your kindness and empathy to maintain control over your actions, often making you feel as if your worth is measured by how much you do for them. These individuals can be anyone: family members, close friends, or even caregivers. They are experts at twisting situations to suit their needs, making you question your own intentions and feel guilty for setting even the smallest of boundaries. Martha, a 75-year-old widow, knew this struggle all too well. Her niece, Julie, had always been a handful. As a child, Julie constantly demanded attention, throwing tantrums if she didn't get her way. As she grew older, her demands only became more sophisticated. She would call Martha whenever she needed money, a place to stay, or simply someone to unload her problems onto. At first, Martha was happy to help. She loved her niece and wanted to be supportive. But Julie's requests became more frequent and demanding over the years. Whenever Martha tried to say no or express her own needs, Julie would respond with hurtful remarks like, "I guess I can't count on you anymore. You're the only family I have left who cares about me. If you really loved me, you'd help me." These words tore at Martha's heart. She began to feel that her value as an aunt, and even as a person, was tied to how much she could do for Julie. The guilt weighed heavily on her, and she found herself agreeing to requests she wasn't comfortable with, just to avoid the painful accusations. When Martha finally reached her breaking point, she realized that her relationship with Julie was built on manipulation rather than genuine care. Every act of kindness was met with expectation, and every attempt at setting boundaries was met with anger or guilt tripping. Manipulators thrive on your sense of obligation and empathy. They understand that you care deeply about maintaining relationships and avoiding conflict, and they use these qualities to their advantage. By invoking guilt or shame, they steer your emotions in a direction that benefits them. Emotional blackmail is a powerful tool. Phrases like, "If you really cared, or "you're the only one who can help me," are designed to make you feel responsible for their happiness or well-being. Over time, you may begin to question your own boundaries and feel selfish for even considering them. Manipulators often lack empathy themselves, but they are adept at recognizing it in others. They know how to press your emotional buttons, using your kindness as a means of control. For them, relationships are transactional. Your kindness is merely a tool to be exploited. Understanding this dynamic is crucial. Recognizing that someone is trying to manipulate you is the first step toward breaking free from their influence. Solution: recognizing manipulation and affirming your own needs. You are not responsible for someone else's happiness, financial stability, or emotional well-being. While kindness and generosity are admirable traits, they should never come at the cost of your own peace of mind. Here are some practical steps to protect yourself from manipulators. 1. Identify manipulation tactics. Manipulators often use guilt-tripping, passive-aggressive comments, and even tears to control your actions. Recognize phrases like, "If you loved me, you would," or "I guess you don't care about me anymore." These statements are designed to provoke guilt and compliance. 2. Establish clear boundaries. Define what you are willing to do and what you are not. Communicate your boundaries firmly and without apology. For example, Martha could say, "Julie, I care about you, but I can't keep giving you money. I need to take care of myself too." 3. Practice assertive communication. Manipulators often rely on your hesitancy or discomfort with confrontation. By speaking clearly and confidently, you weaken their influence. Avoid over-explaining or justifying your decisions. Simply stating your limits is enough. 4. Affirm your own needs and wants. Remind yourself that your own well-being matters just as much as anyone else's. You are allowed to say no. Practice self-compassion and avoid falling into the trap of feeling selfish for prioritizing your own needs. 5. Limit contact if necessary. If someone continues to manipulate you despite your efforts to establish boundaries, it may be necessary to distance yourself from them. Reducing contact or setting strict limits on interactions can help you regain control over your own life. 6. Surround yourself with supportive people. Cultivate relationships with those who respect your boundaries and appreciate you for who you are, not just what you can do for them. Finding a supportive community, whether in person or online, can provide strength and encouragement when dealing with manipulative individuals. Martha eventually took a stand. She sat down with Julie and explained that while she loved her deeply, she could no longer be manipulated into giving more than she was comfortable with. At first, Julie was angry, but Martha stood firm. Over time, their relationship improved. Without the manipulation clouding their interactions, they were able to rebuild a healthier connection based on mutual respect. Your kindness should never be a chain that someone uses to bind you. Recognizing manipulation and affirming your own needs is a vital part of protecting your peace and happiness. You deserve relationships that lift you up, not ones that pull you down. Number 4, the unappreciative. Kindness is meant to be a gift, not an obligation. It should be met with gratitude, respect, and, ideally, reciprocity. However, not everyone understands or values the kindness they receive. The unappreciative are those who take your generosity for granted, expecting your help as if it's their right rather than a privilege. They rarely, if ever, show appreciation, and when you finally reach your limit, they respond with indignation or hostility. Unappreciative individuals can be found in all aspects of life, but they often appear within families or long-standing friendships. When kindness is repeatedly offered without acknowledgement, it can erode your sense of self-worth and leave you feeling exploited and unappreciated. James, a 78-year-old retired mechanic, experienced this painful truth firsthand. His younger brother Carl had always been financially irresponsible. Throughout their lives, Carl leaned on James for support whenever he found himself in trouble. Whether it was paying off gambling debts, covering rent, or providing emergency cash, when Carl's impulsive decisions inevitably led to hardship. At first, James didn't mind helping. He loved his brother and wanted to see him succeed. But as the years went on, Carl's requests became more frequent and demanding. Worse, there was never a word of gratitude or acknowledgement for James's sacrifices. No thank you, no offer to pay him back, and certainly no attempt to change his reckless behavior. Whenever James tried to discuss the issue, Carl would scoff or dismiss him with comments like, "You've always had more than me. It's easy for you to help." Or worse, "I thought family was supposed to be there for each other." The entitlement was staggering, and over time, James began to feel as though his kindness was being exploited rather than appreciated. Unappreciative individuals often act out of entitlement or a lack of empathy. They come to expect kindness as a given rather than recognizing it as a voluntary act of goodwill. Entitlement often stems from a mindset where one believes they are owed something by others, whether due to familial bonds, past experiences, or simply a belief that they deserve more than they currently have. For Carl, his belief that James owed him something likely came from their childhood, where James, being older and more responsible, often stepped in to clean up Carl's mistakes. Lack of empathy is another driving factor. When people are unable or unwilling to understand or appreciate the effort, sacrifice, or goodwill behind an act of kindness, they fail to respond with gratitude. Instead, they view the help as something expected, reducing the value of the kindness itself. This behavior can be particularly damaging for older adults, who may be more inclined to offer help out of a deep sense of duty, loyalty, or affection. When that kindness is dismissed or exploited, it can lead to feelings of resentment, sadness, and diminished self-worth. Solution: learning to identify healthy relationships. Recognizing when your kindness is not being appreciated is the first step toward protecting your peace and happiness. It's not about cutting people off at the first sign of ingratitude, but rather about setting healthy standards for how you allow others to treat you. Here's how. 1. Identify patterns of disregard. Pay attention to whether someone consistently fails to show appreciation for your efforts. If they never say thank you, acknowledge your help, or show any sign of reciprocity, it's a red flag. For James, Carl's repeated lack of gratitude and refusal to even discuss repaying his debts were clear signs of an unhealthy relationship dynamic. 2. Acknowledge your feelings. It's okay to feel hurt or frustrated when your kindness goes unappreciated. Allow yourself to recognize these emotions rather than dismissing them as petty or selfish. Reflect on whether your efforts are truly valued or if you are merely being taken for granted. 3. Set boundaries. Clearly define what you are willing to give and what you are not. For example, James eventually told Carl, "I can't keep lending you money. If you want my help, it needs to be in a different way." Boundaries are essential to maintaining your own emotional well-being. They protect your kindness from being exploited by those who refuse to appreciate it. 4. Seek reciprocity in relationships. Healthy relationships are built on mutual support and respect. If someone consistently takes without giving, it may be time to reassess the relationship. Reciprocity doesn't always have to be material. Emotional support, encouragement, and simple gratitude are valuable forms of giving back. 5. Communicate your needs. Sometimes people are unaware of how their behavior affects you. Having an honest conversation about your feelings can lead to positive change. However, if the person responds with hostility or dismissiveness, it may be a sign that they are unwilling to value your kindness. 6. Allow yourself to walk away. If someone continuously disregards your kindness and refuses to change, you have every right to distance yourself from that relationship. Cutting ties is never easy, especially with family members or old friends, but your well-being deserves to be prioritized. James eventually made the difficult decision to stop lending Carl money. Instead, he offered emotional support and advice whenever Carl found himself in trouble. Predictably, Carl was outraged at first, accusing James of being selfish and uncaring. But James remained firm. He understood that kindness without boundaries was only serving to enable Carl's bad habits. Over time, James felt a sense of relief and empowerment. By setting boundaries, he reclaimed his peace and protected his happiness. He also discovered that he could still be kind without sacrificing his own well-being. You deserve the same freedom. Your kindness is a gift that should be valued, not exploited. By recognizing when others are taking advantage of your generosity, you can create healthier, more fulfilling relationships. How to protect your peace and happiness. It's okay to be kind. In fact, kindness is one of the greatest gifts you can offer to the world. But as you age, it becomes essential to be discerning about who deserves your kindness. Not everyone appreciates what you offer, and some may even exploit your generosity for their own benefit. Understanding this truth is not about becoming cynical, it's about preserving your own well-being. Protecting your peace and happiness begins with recognizing the types of people who consistently drain your energy, disrespect your boundaries, or fail to appreciate your efforts. Once you identify these patterns, you can make conscious choices about where and how to invest your kindness. Practical advice for maintaining your peace. 1. Set healthy boundaries. Make it clear what you are willing to do and what you are not. Boundaries are not meant to punish others. They are tools to protect your mental and emotional health. Saying no less when necessary is a powerful act of self-respect. 2. Practice self-care. Prioritize your own well-being before trying to meet everyone else's needs. Engage in activities that bring you joy, relaxation, and fulfillment, whether it's gardening, reading, traveling, or simply spending quiet time with loved ones. 3. Surround yourself with supportive people. Seek out relationships where kindness is appreciated and reciprocated. Spend time with those who respect your boundaries, encourage your growth, and celebrate your happiness. Positive, caring connections can make all the difference. 4. Let go of guilt. Remember, it's okay to protect your own peace. You are not obligated to please everyone, especially those who consistently take advantage of your kindness. Your golden years should be filled with peace, happiness, and fulfillment. You've spent a lifetime offering kindness to others, and now it's time to ensure that kindness is returned, or at the very least, respected. Protecting your peace is not selfish, it's essential. You deserve relationships that uplift you, hobbies that inspire you, and moments of joy that are free from guilt or manipulation. Embrace the freedom that comes from being selective about where you direct your kindness. After all, your happiness matters too. You have the power to protect your peace and happiness by choosing where to invest your kindness. Not everyone is deserving of your generosity, and that's perfectly okay. Recognizing who uplifts you and who drains you is a crucial step toward living a fulfilling, peaceful life. Setting boundaries, practicing self-care, and surrounding yourself with supportive people are not just acts of kindness toward yourself. They are essential tools for preserving your well-being. Remember, your kindness is valuable. It should be appreciated, respected, and reciprocated, not exploited or taken for granted. By being discerning about who receives your kindness, you free yourself from unnecessary stress and emotional pain. Instead, you create more room for joy, fulfillment, and genuine connections. Have you encountered people like this in your own life? How did you deal with them? Share your experiences and the lessons you've learned in the comments below. Your wisdom can help others who are navigating similar challenges. If you found this helpful, don't forget to subscribe for more insights on living your best life after 60. Protect your peace, cherish your happiness, and keep thriving. You deserve it.